Alrighty, welcome back to Outlier by Lisa Beeson, Chapter 17. We're just gonna get right into it because we're losing the light. After such a world-shaking cataclysm of self-discovery, the only way Ari could cope was to try to act like it never happened and find comfort and stability in normality. She had been dreading the holidays since it would be too painful to celebrate Christmas without her family. So she decided to make December 25th all about Cam's 17th birthday. A couple weeks before Christmas, she told everyone except Cam about what she was planning. And she gave Cale all her American money in exchange for use of one of his credit cards to go online and buy Cam the newest version of his favorite video game system. Reed and Tober pitched in and got a 50-inch flat-screen TV to replace Jared's old boxy one, and Gemma and Connor got him some games to go with it. Before Connor and Gemma left to go visit with family for the holidays, Gemma and the kids exchanged gifts. Gemma gave Cam a pretty sweet navy blue sweater she knitted, and she gave Ari a gray slouchy beanie hat. It wasn't rough and itchy like Ari had expected. It was actually really soft and comfortable. She added it to the other accessories that she wore every day, like Ruby's watch, the leather cuff bracelet Jamie had given her for her birthday, and the blue stone pendant. Each piece tied her to someone she loved, and they acted as a sort of security blanket, reminding her of who she was. Christmas Eve ended up being just Cam and Ari having their own little celebration in the old nursery. Cale was busy working in his study. Reed was doing his own thing down in the village, and Tober was a Buddhist, so he didn't even celebrate Christmas. So they took the plethora of baked goods Gemma had left behind for them up to the nursery and pigged out while they watched A Christmas Carol in honor of Cam's tradition with his grams. The next morning, while Cam was still sleeping in, she set up his birthday presents in the nursery and decorated the kitchen with a homemade happy birthday banner and all the random party decorations Gemma had in storage to make it festive. Then she and Reed, who was nursing a major hangover, got busy making Cam a big birthday breakfast of eggs, pancakes, sausage, bacon, toast, and corned beef hash. Hey, guys, I am in the middle of something, so you're gonna have to keep it down. Be mindful. Hi, baby. You wanna come up here? Oh, my baby girl. My Amy girl. Mwah. Hi, sweetheart. Oh. Kamikaze! Okay. She had been tracking Cam's energy the whole time. Okay. She had been tracking Cam's energy the whole time. So when she felt him coming down the stairs, she quickly set up his place at the table, got out the noisemakers and party hats, and turned towards the door just as he walked in with a bewildered look on his face. "Surprise!" she yelled excitedly, then blew the noisemaker. Reed winced in pain at the loud noise, then said, "Happy birthday, lad," right before taking off the party hat that Ari had just plopped on his head. "Wow, thanks," Cam said with a big smile, taking everything in. Ari gave him a hug, and Reed patted him on the back. Then they all sat down to eat. After breakfast, Ari grabbed his hand and practically dragged him upstairs to the closed door of the nursery, with Reed trailing behind. "Close your eyes and don't open them until I tell you." Cam played along and closed his eyes. Ari opened the door and guided him in. Then, practically bouncing with excitement, she said, "Okay, open them." Cam opened his eyes and his mouth fell open as he saw the huge brand new TV, game system, and stack of games with big blue bows stuck on them. "What?" he said in disbelief. Then he turned to Ari. "You did this?" "We all did," she said with a big smile. "Happy birthday, Cam." Cam gave her and Reed a big, bone-crushing hugs, then ran over to check everything out. He and Ari spent the rest of the day eating junk food and playing video games. In the late afternoon, Cale came up to the nursery and casually leaned in the doorway. "Could you come downstairs for a minute, boy?" Cam paused the game and looked at Ari questioningly. She shrugged her shoulders in response. She had no clue what Cale was up to. They got up and followed Cale down the main staircase. He walked to the front doors and opened them wide to show Tober standing by a black Porsche 911 Turbo parked in front of the manor. "It would be useful if you knew how to drive, so have at it," Cale said as he took a key from his pocket and tossed it to Cam. Cam caught the key and looked back at Cale incredulously. "Are you effing serious? You're letting me learn how to drive in that?" he asked, gesturing to the incredibly expensive sports car. Cale nodded. "Don't make me regret it." Overcome with joy and excitement, Cam temporarily forgot his dislike for Cale and exuberantly shook his hand. "That's incredibly awesome of you. Thanks a lot, man." Then he bounded down the front stairs, not even bothering to put on shoes, to the driver's side of the car and hopped in. Tober got in the passenger side, and after some gear grinding and a couple false starts, Cam finally got the hang of the clutch, and they took off down the driveway. Ari could tell by the look on Cale's face that he was already regretting it. "Thanks for that. You just made his year," Ari said as he closed the front doors. "Like I said, it would be a useful skill for him to have." He brushed it off, like it was nothing special, but Ari caught the small smile in his eyes before he turned away and walked back towards his study. While Cam was gone, Ari went down to the kitchen, turned the radio to one of the only... I think I have to go check on the dogs. While Cam was gone, Ari went down to the kitchen, turned the radio to one of the only stations that wasn't playing Christmas music, and rocked out while she made his cake and birthday dinner. Cam liked pretty much anything, so she decided to make up a big old batch of her dad's world-famous spaghetti and meatballs, with a side of garlic bread. Her cake turned out pretty decent, and as she was icing it, one of her favorite Michael Jackson songs came on the radio. She was so caught up in singing, pretending the knife was a microphone, and dancing along, that she hadn't seen Cam, Reed, and Tober standing in the doorway watching her. The second she realized she had an audience, she froze. The blood in her body rushed to her face, and she felt like she was going to die of embarrassment. "Don't stop on our account, Pipes," Cam said, coming into the room with a big grin on his face and making a wave motion with his arms. He moonwalked over to her and started singing along with the lyrics, making her laugh and helping her get over her embarrassment. Reed came over and finished icing the cake, while Cam and Ari broke into an impromptu 80s breakdance battle, and Tober got the ingredients out to make a big salad. When everything was ready, they all sat down at the table, including Tober, and started eating. They all complimented Ari on the meal and dug in. Cale came down from his study and joined them. Cam and Ari shared a surprised look since he'd never eaten with them in the kitchen before. But he joined in the conversation easily, and they were all able to joke around and have a good time. When they were done eating, Ari got up to light the candles on the cake. Since the men refused to sing, she sang the happy birthday song by herself as she brought the cake over to the table and placed it in front of Cam. He filled up his lungs and blew out every single candle. After the cake was eaten and the dishes were done, the men left, and Cam and Ari went upstairs. "This has been one of my best birthdays ever. Thanks, Pipes," he said as they walked down the hall. "No problem. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I know you wanted to make this day all about me, and I get why, but I have a Christmas present for you. Come on," he said, leading her into his room. He went to his armoire and brought out a box wrapped in newspaper. "You didn't have to get me anything," she protested. "Shut your face, Pipes. Of course I did. It's Christmas," he said as he handed her the present. She tore off the paper and saw that it was a plain lacquered pine box with a wind-up crank on the back. "Cam, did you make this?" He nodded. "Connor helped me get all the supplies, but I put it together." All the time and effort he put into making the music box for her almost brought her to tears. "Thank you, Cam. I love it." She turned the crank a couple times to hear the metallic tinkling strands of "This Little Light of Mine." Ari opened the lid and saw that it was a jewelry box as well, and inside was a charm bracelet with a St. Anthony medallion on it. She gently put the jewelry box down and put the bracelet on, holding it up and looking at it appreciatively. "What made you choose St. Anthony?" She didn't remember telling him that was the saint her old school was named after. His eyes lit up like he had just remembered something important. "Oh, there's something I want to show you." He went over to his laptop that was sitting on his writing desk. He opened it up and continued to talk while he pulled up a website. "I've been keeping an eye out for anything dealing with us, so I made a Google alert for our names, and a couple weeks ago this popped up, and I was waiting for the right time to show you. So," he said, trailing off. As he turned the laptop so she could see what was on the screen. It was an article from the Savannah Tribune about a dedication ceremony for a sculpture that was anonymously donated to St. Anthony's in memory of her. She quickly skimmed through the article that talked about her life and how she was adopted by the Rileys and her mysterious death. Then she saw a quote from a speech her dad gave at the dedication. We want to let the person who donated this sculpture to know that we are thankful to them with all our hearts. It's good to know that someone was able to see that Kira was more than just the way she died, and that she deserves to be remembered for the amazing person she was and the way she lived, with a kind heart and a generous soul." There was a picture underneath the article that showed the sculpture was a large tree made of an amalgam of different metals that she just knew was made by Jamie. Even though she'd never seen it before, it felt strangely familiar. At the bottom of the tree was a plaque that said, "In memory of Kira Riley, though her life was taken too soon, it will always be a source of strength and inspiration to those who knew and loved her." Under that was a picture of her family in front of the tree, looking healthy and sound, with sad but hopeful smiles. Ari sat down on the end of Cam's bed and covered her face with her hands as the tears flowed freely from her eyes. Cam quickly got up and sat down on the bed next to her. I'm sorry, Ari. If I knew it was going to upset you this much, I wouldn't have shown you. I just thought it would be nice for you to see that you're not forgotten." Ari wiped her face and tried to pull herself together. "No, it's fine. I'm really glad you showed me. I know who the anonymous donor is," she said, trying to smile through the tears. "Cam, there's something I've never told anyone because I was afraid it would make me sound crazy." "What?" Cam asked curiously. "I don't understand it, but somehow I'm able to go into other people's dreams." She searched his eyes, looking for any sign of skepticism, but found nothing but curiosity. "I can't do it at will. It just sort of happens." The first time I dream walked was into one of Hector's dreams when I was first on the run. I was able to say goodbye and make sure he didn't feel guilty for my death. The second time was into one of Adam Lennox's dreams. When we first got to Artemir, I let him know that I was safe and that he should quit trying to look for me. But he was insistent, and I knew he wouldn't give up. So I told him that if he really wanted to help me, then he should check on my family and make sure they were safe. She looked back at the pictures on the screen. That article proves that the dream walking is actually happening. That sculpture is Adam's way of showing me that he did what I asked. He's telling me he was there and that my family is safe. Man, I swear, you just keep getting better and better, Pipes, he said, shaking his head and smiling. Just do me a favor. If you ever go into one of my dreams, let me know so I don't embarrass myself. My dreams can be pretty warped. I promise, she said with a soft laugh. And wait here, I have something else for you. She picked up her music box and ran into her room, and then came back a minute later with a small gift box. I was going to give it to you on your half-birthday, but I can't wait that long. Merry Christmas. You've given me too much already, he protested while he pulled off the lid to see the polished ancient coin that she had made into a pendant for him. Whoa, what is this? He asked, holding it out in front of him by the silver chain she'd attached to it. It's a coin Dennis and I found buried in the garden. Dennis, he said, smiling and shaking his head. I did some research, and that guy whose face is on there is Opha of Mercia. He was a powerful king in the late 700s. Cam's eyes widened in disbelief. The 700s? Ari, that's more than 1,000 years ago. This thing is priceless. I can't possibly take it. Sure you can, she said, taking it out of his hands and putting the chain around his neck. Your family. There's nothing more priceless than that. He wrapped his arms around her and held her tight. I love you, Pipes. Ari squeezed him back. Love you too, Camaximus. And they both laughed as they continued to hold on to each other. Ari was sure now that no matter where she was, if Cam was around, she'd be home. And that was the end of chapter 17. And obviously it's dark, so we're going to have to switch how we're doing things. That was chapter 17. I'm going to go ahead and move on to chapter 18 in the next video. So, thank you for joining, and